y'all, Farmer Dre back at it. I am out here in our strawberry field, and today it's all about fertilizing our strawberry crop. Spring has been up and down. I mean, just look at today. There's a storm brewing over there on that side, on the south horizon, on the north horizon here. The sun was peeking through here earlier. The clouds kind of came through there. This weather has been crazy. I'm telling you guys, up and down. A couple weeks ago we had 22 degrees. Last night we had 28, and they're calling for warm weather, warm and sunny weather, but it is what it is. Can't complain about the weather too much. We got to embrace it and try to do as much as we can to figure it out. So when it comes to the strawberries, the reason the weather affects us so much is these blooms here are super sensitive to the frost. We got to put on row covers, take them back off. It's kind of a pain. Before we start talking about the fertilizer, I want to show you guys the varieties here real quick. And I just want to let you guys know we did have a lot of rat damage in our strawberries, a lot of mice, vole damage. And we're going to be a couple weeks behind than usual, but it kind of is what it is. I had no idea that rats and mice affect strawberries. I never had an issue with them before. This is actually my third spring actually growing strawberries, so it's all new to me. So ideally, if I would have known, I would have put a ton of bait and poison out in the fall, and I wouldn't have the issue. But we're in this situation. I can't change the situation now. We just gotta embrace it and move forward. So this part of the field right here got hit pretty hard. I'm not sure why this area there, but overall here, as you guys can see, we have a ton of tiny plants. They're growing, but I'm just gotta keep on fertilizing, keep that green growing. But these are the sweet Charlies here. As you can see here, plants are looking rough. There's a few dead berries on here, or green berries. There's also, they're just growing. We when it got down to 22, it actually killed a bunch of blossoms here, even with row covers on. So, you know, these plants are looking good. I just need 3 to 4 times more leaves on here than we have. So I'm pushing a bunch of fertilizer through these. Even right now, I'm fertigating to get these plants growing and pushing. You know, these green berries won't be big without leaves. Now I'm hoping in the next couple weeks these plants will perk up and start pushing a bunch of green, so that we can have a nice decent crop. Like these plants right here, there's too many blooms on this plant for how many leaves we have here, just because of rats and mice came through and ate all the green vegetation. So yeah, I mean, you can see we have green tiny berries. We have some decent sized berries here that are growing, but overall, you know, it's not the perfect situation, but it is what it is now. We just got to move forward, got to keep them sprayed, keep the disease off them, and keep the plants nice and happy. And I feel like this first field here got hit pretty hard, got hit the worst actually with those mice and voles. So this trailers back in the back, I'm gonna go ahead and show you guys those, or even the Ruby June here in the center did pretty good over the winter months. But this front block here got hit pretty hard, and there were just voles that came through here and dug them out and ate up the plants, leaves. Some of them ate the root system. But like I mentioned earlier, there's not much you can do about it. Just got to push through it. So right here, these are the Chandlers, and as you can see here, they've been growing. Like I mentioned, there's still a lot of green, live blooms in there. When I got cold, we did lose a few blooms here on the plants, so they're not perfect, but you know, it's what happens when the cold comes through. There's a few green berries on here growing nicely. These plants are looking nice and healthy. Overall, can't complain about these plants back here. But you know, look at that, green berries on there, a bunch of open blooms. And of course, there's a few dead ones out here, but kind of is what it is. But listen, look at here, a bunch of green berries. So we'll have strawberries here within 20 to 30 days, hopefully. But yeah, got to keep these plants happy. A lot more vegetation on these plants. These are sort of healthy plants should look like right here. So yep. Alright, so I'm gonna show you guys our complete fertilizer system here and how this works here. So what we have going on here is our well house water's coming out of the ground at 35 gallons a minute. We have fresh water coming through here. We have a fertilizer injector. So how this works, clean water is coming through here, through this valve, and whenever I shut this valve, it forces water to come through the injector. And it's just a basic mass injector here. Super cheap, super efficient, that works. Water comes through, siphons the fertilizer there, it goes up to the main line to the header line there. So not too terribly bad. So that's how we fertilize the plants. And if you want a lot of fertilizer to go through there, shut the valve, and you just adjust it. And when it comes down to fertilizing the strawberries, I have a certain amount I'm putting on, so I'm not too worried about the rate of fertilizer. I just make sure it doesn't go in too fast. We can evenly distribute that fertilizer through the entire crop. So how much fertilizer do we add to the strawberry field? So on a weekly basis, a strawberry field, an acre of strawberries needs about 7 pounds of actual nitrogen on a per acre basis. And when it comes to talking about actual nitrogen, what you do is you take the percentage of fertilizer on the bag in decimal form and you multiply that by how much fertilizer is in the bag. As I am talking here, this rainstorm is coming through here. We got hail coming down, and this is no good for strawberries, especially for strawberries. Hopefully this hail quits and doesn't come down too much. If you get a lot of hail on strawberries, it can destroy a crop in a matter of seconds here. So yeah, hail's no good. So the fertilizer that I'm using here is calcium nitrate. It's a greenhouse water soluble fertilizer. That's a 50-pound bag of fertilizer. That's a 15.500 fertilizer, meaning that there's 15% nitrogen, 0% potassium, 0% phosphorus of fertilizer in this 50-pound bag of fertilizer. So how you calculate the percentage is you take 15.5% nitrogen that's in the bag here in decimal form. So you move that decimal over 2 spaces. So take 0.155 times the 50 pounds that is in the fertilizer bag, and it comes out to 7.5 pounds of actual nitrogen in a 50-pound bag of fertilizer. So we're only putting on 7 actual pounds of fertilizer in 1 acre whenever we put 1 bag per acre. So that's how you calculate the fertilizer quantity in a pound of fertilizer. So this kind of gets confusing because whenever I say actual fertilizer, I mean the actual percentage of nutrients that are in the bag versus the weight of the fertilizer. So we put on 7 pounds of actual nitrogen per acre every single week. So middle of March through harvest, we put this on. So about 70 to 80 pounds of fertilizer of actual nitrogen per acre in the entire length of the season. You can use different types of fertilizer. I like to use the calcium nitrate because we put on the P and K in the fall before planting the strawberries here. You can mix up your fertilizer if you want. You can put down a triple 20. You can put down a potassium nitrate, and that has more potassium. Also has nitrogen value, but also has potassium value in them with the nitrate form to it. So you can go ahead and add that nitrogen to the strawberry crop. The biggest deal about strawberries is taking PDO samples and sending in those flowers or the plant samples to the lab and seeing what your plants need and what your plants don't need. So it gets kind of complicated when it comes to plant nutrition, but the easiest way to do it is to add 7 pounds of nitrogen per week per acre to your plants. So until this gets done here, there's not much to worry about. It's just kind of make sure there's no drips in your irrigation lines there. You make sure the irrigation is intact, no leaks or anything, and make sure that fertilizer is going to get into the plants. And that is about it. It doesn't get any more complicated than this, other than my mess here in the corner and cleaning stuff up here. It's not too terribly complicated. So a quick little tip of fertilizing strawberries or fertilizing anything through drip irrigation is you want your irrigation lines to be full of water before you go ahead and put any type of fertilizer in it. The drip tape has little emitters, and it will not emit the fertilizer. Won't drip the fertilizer until the entire line is full. So I run the clean water in there for about 15 minutes or so, let all these lines fill up, and then we start putting fertilizer. And after the fertilizer is done going through there, then we let it run for about 15 minutes or so to kind of get that fertilizer out of the lines and go into the plants, and then we turn off the water. As you can see here, it's raining, so we do not need to be irrigating the crops. The crops don't need any more water than they have, but we need to pump that fertilizer to them somehow, and the only way to do it is through the watering system. So we just water enough to get the fertilizer out there, and that's it.